for those of you who are serving and are going to be serving in the future, thank you. Thank you. It's always tough to be among the first, but what you do is that you make it just that much easier and hopefully that much more rewarding for those who are going to be following in your footsteps. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Lenny? Anybody have any questions?
You know, I have a question that maybe we have a little discussion, especially now that Deepa is here.
Yeah.
And she's a member of the statewide API
Yes.
caucus, and I relatively recently became president of the APA Dems of Silicon
Yes.
Valley, which is traditionally, I'm the first South Asian to do that. But
That's right.
there's still an issue, I think, within the Asian American community as to what extent Indians are included as Asian. Sometimes Indians do to themselves and say, well, we're not really Asian, but we are.
Yes.
And I think it's really significant, and it takes all sides to make sure that Indians are included. And I still, even to this day, even with Deepa where she is, where I am, and others starting to gain a little bit more influence and getting these titles, I still don't necessarily feel that we're necessarily included under the API umbrella as often as we should be, especially given the fact of the strides we've been trying to make. And I think what that will end up doing is, if that's not rectified, it's going to create a divide and it's going to create resentment. And I think that there's got to be a real effort to include Indian South Asians as a whole into the Democratic Party through the API caucus, through the API umbrella, at whether it's the state level, in cities, at the local level, at central committees. If it's not done, then I think that it really will serve to it would become less cohesive. It makes it less significant. It makes the API movement less significant in terms of being part of the mainstream of the Democratic Party.
I would agree with you, and I will. And part of, I think, having this conversation really is about having it in an honest way. And I think some of the issues you raised, Ash, are ones that we need to just be completely open about it. I, for one, have been very uncomfortable with the API caucus, calling ourselves the API caucus, when we've not done the outreach that I think we should do to strengthen our caucus, to do what we need to do to bring others in. That definitely, from my perspective, API is like broad API. And oftentimes I think, and the party apparatus probably is not the best example, frankly, because it is a long-standing institution that has not, I think, done a very good job of outreach. I know that the way that I've chosen to run my campaign in terms of reaching out broadly is not typical of how most candidates run their campaigns. When you've got Jerry Hill, who just is wonderful because he's from this area, has embraced the community, but that's not always the case in different areas of the state. So, and Ash, to your question, I frankly would love to have an opportunity to have this really honest dialogue and within the next API caucus meeting. I think we need to have it. I think we need to be very, very clear about what some of the barriers have been from both sides. And from my perspective, I'm going to venture to guess that there are a lot of misperceptions about the Indo-American community from the rest of the API community. And until you really have had, kind of interpersonal relations, or you work alongside each other, I think those misperceptions don't go away, and that we really do need to, bring this to a full-blown honest discussion. Because I will tell you, even for some of my API colleagues who are serving in local government throughout the state, there's an inherent, I'm just going to say this, there's an inherent, I don't know what it stems from, but distrust of the Indo-American community. And I don't know if it's an issue about, and it's not because, and when I delved deeply about that, I said, well, what is that all about? Well, they just want to be involved because now, they have the ability to do so, and they want to kind of take over. And I said, that doesn't cut it for me. This really is about a collective community that's building strength. And I agree with you. If we don't do that, we render ourselves weak and meaningless over the long term. And so we do need to do that. And part of why I continue to look at coalition building with the Latino community, with other ethnic communities, is because I feel I don't weakness within the API community. We don't do enough of that, even within our own community. So I will commit to you to try to lead an honest conversation about that at the e-board meeting in November. We need to have it. And frankly, the leadership of the caucus, Deepa knows this, through her own experience, it is very much, I think, a set kind of established, regime to where it's a very, very closed, it's a very, very closed environment. And if we're gonna be the Democratic Party that really is truly about growing the party, lifting the tent up and say, come, join us, we need to, come to head with this.
I don't know if anybody has any comment on that.
I was just thinking that I think we're within the API community, we're so involved with who's the first, who's coming in the pipeline, that we don't congregate around issues, and it makes us less, come off less mature as a community. And I think we need to get past that point and start talking about the things that unite us. And the November meeting, we're actually talking about bringing in domestic violence advocates to actually even just start discussing these issues that plague our community in particular.
Yeah, but I think it has to go beyond kind of having a structure to deal with this. I want to kind of break it down a little bit to where, people really understand kind of where we're all coming from. And I do think that we're going to miss an opportunity if we don't do that soon. And even though we're focused on issues, it's still kind of a very structured dialogue about the issues. And maybe you walk away with a little bit better understanding about where people are coming from, but that's, kind of one issue. And I think there's a dynamic here. I mean, frankly, what I'm looking at right now is 2016 and what we're going to do in the next presidential election. And how's the API community really going to influence the outcome of who we elect as our next president? And what does that API community look like? And when I started to kind of analyze that with a small group of friends of mine, what really dawned on me was, whoa, we got a lot of work to do ourselves. It's like, and even though we have our first, Filipino American elected as a legislator in Banta, I mean, we got a whole lot of API support, a lot of Filipino American support, but it wasn't like broad API support. That shouldn't happen. I mean, I don't like these kind of, just identities that I think really don't do us a service as a broader community. And so we do need to have that conversation. But there are other caucuses within the party that I would love to see more, frankly, diverse faces in speaking about issues, whether it's the environmental caucus, the progressive caucus, there's a business and professions caucus, and all of these caucuses, I mean, they're there because the institution of the Democratic Party allowed them to be there. And so it's those who have been associated with the institution that continue to carry those caucuses. That should not be the case. There's a lot happening in business and professions, in the environment, and we're sitting here in an environmental firm that is, we should be bringing voices to the table on those issues.
I also agree with you. I think that recently, being on the city council of San Francisco, and we have a significant number of API
Yes.
population, and they have some issues that are related to API community in our city,
Right.
which are not necessarily true across all
Right.
the Asian people. So the fundamental issues of entry or being cohesive goes beyond an issue, because issue is particular regional oriented and there are some health issues, etc.
Right.
So I would encourage the fundamental issue to be addressed head on.
Yeah.
Like you mentioned, trust.
Yes.
What's the genesis of that?
Right.
How can we lessen it?
That's right.
And how can we enter a fresh approach? That's the way I feel that unless we have this basic understanding, we will not be able to address honestly even the issues.
I agree. That's what we're gonna do, is just keep carrying on the misperceptions and really not, build ourselves from, and collaborate from a position of strength and understanding, but instead perhaps out of necessity that at the end isn't gonna get us out that much further.
And Betty, I think culturally we are very much in alignment, we have
Yeah.
similar backgrounds,
Yeah.
we have similar cultural heritage, similar values, which are in alignment with American values, right?
Absolutely.
But essentially, when I work in the Silicon Valley tech industry, and I have so many Asian friends, we collaborate, we really get along, and there is so much partnership that goes on, right? And I think politically it may not be happening yet, but it's a matter of time, because I think we all kind of need each other, and we
Yes.
have to work together, collaborate, and lead towards the success of our local communities, right? I mean, it all stems from there. So definitely, I think, I really like the fact, candid dialogue, really great, excellent question, Ash. Thanks for bringing it up.
And I think timing wise, and I know, Ash, you let me know, but I think the November e-board is critical. It's here, which
Yeah,
makes it
right
easy.
here, exactly.
And I think if we can, whether it's on campus, off campus, but to have this kind of a dialogue where we're just being honest and real about, where we're, perceptions, misperceptions, where we may want to go in terms of common shared goals, that's very helpful, because where you don't want it to have, it manifest itself is at the convention next year.
Exactly.
And it would be great if we could make some movement, just in terms of a dialogue, a conversation, before we are in Los Angeles in the convention.
And that's a great idea. Maybe we can do it outside of the actual board meeting.
Yeah.
And just have just an open discussion. So
Yeah.
not even a focus, like, let's just start talking about this
Right,
stuff.
right.
And that's why I brought it up, because we never talk about it.
Right, exactly.
We just, ask the regular same things, like, and which is fine, but this is an important issue, because I can see it being something, I mean, we see it manifest in so many ways, and you're very right about, if someone's, Indian, then the Indian community comes support them, if someone's, Japanese American, the Japanese community, Chinese, the Chinese community comes, and we should all be there,
Right.
if it's the right candidate,
Right,
if we all,
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
if it's the Democratic, candidate going against the Republican, it shouldn't be just Filipinos showing up to support Mabanta.
That's right.
If he's a good candidate and
Yeah,
if we
that's
feel,
right.
but you know my point, I think, but we need to talk about it, because, it's not gonna be the first or last time that we do, if we do have an open dialogue about it.
That's right.
But thank you, Betty. I mean, it was so good to have you today.
Thank you.
And we heard empowerment and creating opportunities. I mean, look at your stellar background,
Yeah,
and
it's-
essentially it's an inspiration for all of us, because all of us can sort of try to replicate what you have really done in your communities and in your part of the world. And when we look at how this election plays out, we know you're going to win, right? So
I feel confident.
and we'll be very
We're
happy
working
to have
hard.
your leadership.
We're
of
working
course.
very hard. And, I'm doing this just really out of a tremendous sense of gratitude. Obviously, I've had really wonderful opportunities, and I look at Deepa, and I'm just proud when I look at her, because of, what she's been able to accomplish, and doing her part in terms of, really kind of, putting her stake in the ground to say, look, I'm here, I'm an American woman, and I really am part of this, democratic process, and, which I think is really what is the charge before all of us. So, but let's get some work done in November and start with that.
And also what we're trying to create, Betty, with this club
Yes,
is an opportunity to voice, right? To
Yes.
provide a voice.
that's right.
And it's not a voice that is, not the concerns as much,
Yeah.
but really trying to collaborate to address needs of a community.
Yeah.
Active collaboration.
That's
And that's the reason why many of us actually ran for delegate. We are invested with the Democratic Party.
That's right.
We are trying to work with the party to make good things happen for
Yeah.
the rest of California.
Yeah.
And you started very early as a 13-year-old on the school board, and that's the other component of what we are trying. We are trying to see leadership within our community. We are trying to see folks to go out and run for school board, to run for council members, and Deepa is one of our up and coming star, because she's going to law school right now, but she's going to run for office. I know that someday. She's like, no, don't say that. And we need an introduction from that stellar dude sitting next to Deepa.
This is my husband.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Nice to meet you. Pradeep. All right, we have two Pradeeps in the room.
Puneet.
Puneet, okay.
Close enough.
Yeah, I was just gonna make a comment. I think the Democratic Party does take the Indian Americans for granted. It seems like when you look at the statistics in the last presidential election, only the African Americans in a higher percentage voted for President Obama. Right below that is Indian Americans.
Right.
They went
Right.
overwhelmingly
Yeah.
Democratic. So it seems to me the Democratic Party just assumes they're gonna vote Democrat. And, it's not a bad assumption, but I think things can change. We have a new vice chairman of the Republican Party in California who's Indian American. And she is very smart and very bright, and I can see her making inroads in the Indian American community to bring that into the Republican Party.
Right.
So I think if the Democrats don't kind of get up and say, wait a minute, we can't just assume that these guys are always gonna, vote Democratic and donate Democratic, I think it could be a problem. So I do think that for the party itself, it's a good idea to be inclusive of Indian American community more than they have.
I appreciate that. Exactly.
So Betty, please stay with us, more active dialogue. Stephen, thank you for
Okay.
joining in.
Okay.
And we'll move on to, Pradeep Gupta has to leave, and we'll do a quick intro of Pradeep. So Pradeep was appointed to the city council last year, and he's up for election or re-election this year. And so he's been on the planning commission. He's done a lot of work in the planning of electric utility systems. He's got a PhD from Purdue University, electrical engineering, and he's also been involved in the affordable housing options in San Mateo County. And he's part of many of these different boards and committees, like the Airport Land Use Committee, the SFO, Airport Community Roundtable, Housing Subcommittee, School District, and really strong credentials. So we are very excited to see you running, and you're already there on the City Council. As an incumbent has its advantages, so we are there to make sure that you win. So come on up here, Pradeep, and let's hear a little bit about your agenda and your vision.
Thank you, Rishi. Well, thank you, Rishi, very much, and I'm also thankful to Ash. He invited me over. I was not aware of this meeting until he sent me an email saying, well, you better show up, and I said, sure. Whatever you say, Ash. And I'm glad I did. I'm preaching to the choir. You're already up there. You already know what's going on. You know how we all want to have Indo-American representation in many different facets. As a matter of fact, one of my favorite quote is that America used to be melting pot, where everybody had to come up to the standards of the so-called American life. But now I think our motto should be like a salad. We are all ingredients, we are working together, but we are not losing our identity at the same time. And salad tastes good. It's not melted, but it's still good. So from that perspective, I think that our Indo-American community has already made so many contributions to the American society. Less than 1% of population, we have huge amount of credentials to cite. I think I don't have to give the numbers, you all know about them. But our political involvement has been dismal. We cannot blame API, we cannot blame other people, although it's easy to do that. I think we have to look at ourselves also. My own perspective is that how many of our friends we talk to get excited and engage in dialogue, but next week everything is forgotten. You start all over again, the same dialogue in the next party. So I think we as a community has to take action. It's not going to be somebody giving us on a plate. We got to demand, we got to know what we want, and we got to define it, and we want to be vocal about it.